What's up guys, this is Sean and welcome back to the iherng podcast, and today we will answer a question from email. This is from Jeffrey. Hi Sean, recently I'm looking at Mossack USJ1, estimated completion 2028 Q4. The location of this project along with the BRT connection is very tempting for rental to students, as almost as all universities' education centers in the Sunway and Subang area are easily accessible by it. Basically, everything about this project is oriented towards investment for students. The selling price per square feet is lower compared to the projects around the area, and the ROI of this project seems promising too. Based on the agents, I did some research on property portals and found out that the rental rates of properties nearby is about the similar rate. The questions are as followed. Number 1. What's your take on student investment properties, especially around Sunway area? I foresee there will be no shortage of space demand of students in this university area. Although I keep reminding myself that the agent's ultimate aim is to just get me to sign on the dotted lines, hahaha. Therefore, are their projections too good to be true? Number 2. In your previous video, I recalled that you mentioned you will only invest in properties that you yourself would want to stay in too. Judging at the look of this particular project, is clearly not for own stay purpose. If you want to invest in projects of such kind, what are the risks we have to take note of? Number 3. Does renovation have much effect on student investment-oriented projects? Based on the agent, the number of wealthy China students and affluent families are increasing in these universities, and the rental rates is only going to go up within the area. Thus, the empty house is like a car without wheels theory applies, and thoughtful renovations can allow me to fetch a higher return rate, or basic furniture and appliances is good enough for students. Number 4, there are some companies available to basically run the whole rental operations for owners from A to Z, including sourcing for tenants, repair works, and etc. They charge about 5 to 10% of the money revenue. For someone new in investment, do you think it's wise to get one to help for the first 1 to 2 years to free up the time and effort? Or is encouraged to do it ourselves to better understand the whole flow in preparation for future investments ahead? Some context about me. I'm 30 years old with a salary of 7,000, one own stay house in PJ under my name, married and planning to have kids in the future. Financial situation is healthy with just a car loan of about 700 ringgit per month. Currently actively looking for an investment property. My heartfelt thanks to you for the wisdom, generosity and kindness you've shown along the way. Keep up the good work and all the best to you. Cheers, brother. Okay, within the email, Jeffrey also attached the images. This is the Type B 689 square feet unit, 2 bedroom, 1 study room, and 2 bathroom. So they basically will have room rentals lah. So room 1, 2, 3, 4, room 1006, room 2002, room 3002. Room 4 can rent out for 800, so in total you will have 4,800. And you see all the agents' languages lah. Early bird price, you got free legal fee, free aircon, free pantry, cabinet kitchen, free water heater, digital lock set. For Type C, then you will get about 5,002 because the rooms are bigger. So for those who are listening to the podcast, I am attaching the image on the video lah, so you can actually switch to YouTube if you're listening to this. So back to Type B, right? 480,000 to 516,000. The installment will be about 2,002. Rental is about 4,008. Fuyo. So for Type C, the installment is 2,005 and the predicted rental return is about 5,002. Wow. Give me the whole floor. Okay, relax. Okay, so now, thank you very much, Jeffrey. This is about USJ1. For those who don't know, it's around Summit area, right behind Damen, now called Smart Home Mall lah, Smart Mall something lah. And the exciting thing about that location is SAMW just launched Hype, which is the master plan connected to the LRT station and the BRT stop. So that's awesome, right? Right opposite you have Giant Hypermarket. And the next best thing is you have the connectivity of BRT, which connects to all the university around the Sunway route. And under Sunway's group, you will have Sunway University, you will have Monash, And the next one will be the relocation of Sunway International School. And a lot of people, just to get you guys on the level of understanding, because now I'm a parent and I'm sending my kids to school, then we need to research about school fees also. So for standard 1, sekolah rendah, the annual fee per semester, it's about 30,000 to 40,000. So it depends on what's the age as well, but that's the range. And there will be 2 semesters a year. So the school fees for sekolah rendah is about 40 to 50,000 for standard 1 to standard 3. And you, on top of that, you got all the other fees, the computer fee, whatever fee. And the number of students are crazy. Then you look into Sunway University, which is always famous for very rich students, right? Monash as well, very close to Taylor's also. So for those who want more information, you can just go to the project website, right? I am not selling the project. So, number 1, what's your take on student investment property, especially around Sunway area? So, around Sunway area, like last time, you can see a few projects around the area that were not initially designed for it. So they were big units, they were for own stay, all got converted, all owners converted their units, have partition within, just to cater for the very handsome demand. And when we look into this kind of investment product type, we need to first understand this theory about property investment, which is multiple rental option, MRO, right? So Far Capital introduced this way back and it stands until today. So what we deem as the best form of investment is a unit that comes with multiple rental options. The more, the better. Okay, so for example, if I buy a unit in Sunway, I can rent out long term, I can rent out short term, I can rent out medium term also, which is a thing where a lot of people got relocated close by to offices or commercial areas, maybe just for training, maybe just for meetings or whatsoever, or onboarding processes, just for 3 to 6 months time. So if you go for Airbnbs, then the cost might be too high. So there's this demand for medium term. So this is a new thing. And we see a lot in PJ actually. Then we have co-living, where you share room by room. It's a very fancy way to put it. You can go short-term stay, which is Airbnb. Then some is by worker quarters, where you calculate by head. And worst come to the worst, all plans fail, right? You can live yourself, okay? But usually we don't calculate this as investors, okay? So we just sort that out, which is the next question that we'll talk about. The more options we have on strategy to cover our installment, the better. So the take on student investment properties and Airbnb properties are pretty much similar because it's a single usage kind of building. The worst thing that can happen to Connaught area where UCSI is when the college relocates. Right? When the school relocates, gone case. So that's the biggest fear for student investment one. For Airbnb, then will be the regulations and things like that lah. So when you mention student investment properties in Sunway in particular, because of the density and abundance of university, private universities especially are excellent here. So even if Taylor's relocated, you look into SS15, right? It affected the entire typology of SS15 a little bit compared to before when you have Asia Cafe, you have Inti, Metropolitan College and Taylor's together, right? Wow, that's the most happening area every single day and night. You need to line up for Snowflake, right? The Asia Cafe, you need to take number one, right? For those who have grown up within that area, you all understand what I'm saying. So with a bunch of youngsters with their parents' money in their pocket, right? Wow, it's very, very good for economy one, which includes rental as well. But then in Bandar Sunway, do you think Sunway will relocate their Monash University? I don't think so lah. That's somewhat the trademark of the township ma. Do you think they will relocate Sunway International School again? They just rebuilt them because why? They want to empty out more canvas within the main side of Sunway. So now they just built a new Sunway, Sunway Square. Do you think Taylor's will be relocated again since they have the Lakeside campus? I don't think so. So with all that, that eliminated the main risk of student accommodation projects. And just a caveat to this discussion, right? Which university also matters in this discussion. So when we want to invest in such properties, because the tenants mainly are students and the rental rates is highly dependent on the wealth of the students itself, which directly reflected in the fees. If you just do some research around projects around Sunway area where students stay, right? We have viewed 1 or 2 projects before around the area. The numbers sometimes can be too good to be true one. Like we just visited Union Suites, right? You look into the rental rates, woo! for those who have bought them, must be laughing to the bank every single month. In comparison, then if you think about university around New Era College in Kajang, very different dynamics, right? Compared to Utah, in Gampa ke, in the PJ ke, very different. If you compare to public university, again very different. So this is a not one formula fits all kind of situation, so just be mindful. But the cons then is somewhat similar because the tenant market group is the same. High energetic individuals. So when I was studying back then, so when we need to stop by our friends' accommodation to do projects, right? I studied in Taylor's, back in the Leisure Commerce Square building, and my friends stayed in Mentari, stayed in Suryamas, which is the block next door also. Every Sunday morning or Monday morning, right, it will be horrible within the lift. Sure, got somebody puke lah, somebody peed lah, then there's going to be a lot of noise at night lah. That's why we always get complaints, because a group of youngsters together do homework, you really think they do homework, man? Sure got chit chat, sure got talk, sure got do silly things one ma. Youngsters ma, right? And when a group of youngsters all gather together, what will happen? Then when you have all these high energetic individuals, right, all using the facilities, they are not going to care about the premise as hard as the owner lah. So the level of wear and tear is going to be very high, and the only way to exit for this kind of properties then will be only to investors in the future. So the numbers when we buy must make sense first, okay? It must make sense to a level, because if you want to exit this in the future, who is going to buy or who is going to tip sell, right? Who is going to take over from you as the next owner? Most likely another investor, because there's two ways property increase price, right? So we kind of just take investment oriented like Bangsa South, small units, right? Versus Setia Alam, big large residential houses. Two are somewhat the unicorns of property in Malaysia, but two very different characteristics, okay? One, Setia Alam, the price appreciation depends highly on how much more another person is willing to pay to live within the address, okay? So the more in demand the location is, because of scarcity, no more land, no more house, the only way to live in the address is to pay a higher price to live within. Just like Desa Park City, just like any landed products around Klang Valley lah. Okay, so it's driven by somewhat a degree of own stay element. Within that situation, sometimes we will look at the selling price versus the rent, right? It will never make sense. And for this kind of products, it need not to make sense. Why rental 3,000 but they buy 2 million one? Sort lah, because they really want the house, they really want the address. In comparison to Bangsa South or the KLCC new units or the Airbnb type, right? The only way that you can exit the property is to another investor that looks at the money and figures only. If the rental cannot cover installment, if the rental is not up to my expected yield, I am not going to buy. So just have that in mind. Part of question one also, are the projections too good to be true? You can immediately just go to website, iBelay, or the co-living websites, right, and check around. I think now the behaviors of agents has changed due to the lack of information gap anymore. Their source of information are also our source of information. They just Google, we just Google, or ChatGPT, the same one. But what's lacking now is the strategy of investment. So for student investment properties, right, again, it's going to be like Airbnb one. You're going to be very happy for the first 3 to 5 years time one, where the rental is way higher than your installment. You're going to laugh, oh wow, investment so good, I could have bought more, until the building condition gets out of place. How to resolve that then will be the level of participation of owners within the JMB or the MC in the future. That one can be resolved lah. But a lot of investors of such nature, right, because you don't stay within also, you never seen the unit also, it's a pure investor kind of mindset. You don't care ma. A lot of people don't care one ma. That's why an exercise to go is to go around UCSI, Taman Konon area, is to go into Taman Bunga Raya or Danau Kota area where it's all TAR college students, Utah students, right? You go around the area and you see lah. But again, different range. But what I want you look at is only the condition of the building. So in terms of projection, is it too good to be true? I don't think they are exaggerating. The worst thing that can happen when you have national policies like Australia trying to restrict students from coming in, UK trying to restrict the time of their graduates to stay in UK, to find a job If not, you need to leave the country. That would then greatly affect the student inflow to the country, because a lot of people don't want to recognize this, right? Actually, now our level of education, private lah, unfortunately, is actually very, very high in demand. In fact, in Johor Bahru, a lot of Singaporean parents actually send their kids to international school in Johor. Malaysian education pretty tokong one. Number two, I recall that you mentioned you only invest in properties that yourself would stay. Judging at the look of this particular project, is clearly not for own stay. If we would want to invest in projects of such kind, what are the risks that we have to take note of? So I kind of touched about this, is the exit strategy again. So for own stay product, because the owners are living within, so they will somewhat pay more attention, because they take the lift, they park the car, they use the corridor so they will see defects here and there, and they will the management will do something about it. But for investment oriented type, then they just tak tahu, just don't care as long as rental come in. So I think the difference here will be the exit strategy. Let's dwell a little bit more on it. I think by year 7 you can exit the project already, but it will be too good to exit. So imagine like just like we talk about Union Suites, right? It's about 7 to 8 years time now. If you look into the rental versus the installment that the owners are paying, right? Nobody want to release one. Siao, every month I positive cash flow 2,000. Why would I want to sell the project? But think about it. Will there still be more accommodations around the area? Will there be still more supplies around the area? Yes. But if the students' population keeps going up along with the supply, then it's all good. If it remains the same population but accommodation go up, then rental will drop. But I don't think so lah. Again, we are talking about Sunway area only lah. Across USJ1, if you look into the township of Hype, tapping into the same group, if you look into all the empty lands and industrial lands around the area, do you think there will be more supply? And for investment products, the greatest risk is when at that particular moment in time, the building condition just cannot make it anymore. And that reflects in the rental returns. So how I see it is developer will take care for the first year. For the second to third year, there will be a handover stage for JMB. By law, it's 24 months, but some developers will still just hang on to it, right, just to maintain their branding and help out. Then when you establish MC, everybody will be very enthusiastic during the initial stage, but year 4, year 5, everybody lazy already. Then only the building condition will run down. But once the investment no longer makes sense, right, it will be very, very challenging to let go. Because again, who is going to buy from you? Not families, not own stay people, only investors. And if your numbers cannot make sense, right, you want to release. Why? Because you cannot make money And when you want to sell, you think you want to sell at a higher price, and I will take over from you a project that the renter cannot cover installment anymore. No cannot be You get what I mean? So when do you clear that line will be very, very crucial. So last time I mentioned before, I will only invest in properties that I myself would stay, because that's the last multiple rental option. Okay, so this is a very initial statement during the start of my investment journey because last time my parents, my auntie, everyone else, the worst case scenario, if you buy a property, if you really cannot rent out, right, you can leave yourself For a 22-year-old Sean, I think that makes sense But now after having more experience, a bigger portfolio, right, I don't think it's that valid anymore currently. Because the greatest fear for inexperienced investors is when you look into the condition of the property and you are somewhat in a higher position in wealth and comfort level, you will not invest in those products. Like if you look into the size, right? 689 square feet, how to live? Then if you look into the 4th bedroom, right? You can barely squeeze in a bed. How can students live like that? And people will pay 800 meh? Cannot one lah. Don't invest in this kind of thing. Who want to rent? This one agent sin kayu one lah. It's because your living room is already bigger than the entire unit. Then you will not find this kind of thing appealing anymore. So all I'm saying is that rule kind of got dropped out already because it lacks empathy. Just because in my house I got for him, for her basin all the way, for those who don't have, right, it's not humane. Instead, I will follow data. For example, like the 4th bedroom 800, at what size you agak-agak, right, is somewhat just slightly bigger than the bathroom only. Really got such rate or not? Then let's test it out. Put on the tenant hat and go look around the area whether got such rates or not. Most likely you will find shop offices around the same row of USJ1, right, the highest floor, but that one all foreign workers stay one. Then for the landed house opposite the USJ1, right, some of them also partitioned for students. What's the ongoing rates then? So I've learned throughout the journey to be more data driven, which is something that I'm trying to push for the entire Malaysian property investors to adopt as well. But it's very, very hard because all of us grew up in a house before, right? And that will somewhat become our default OS, our default operating system. So whether that person updated the OS or not highly depends on his belief system and the things that he see, he hear, and he went through. So if you have been a student before, you understand this situation. I shared a master bedroom with 4 other dudes sharing that master bathroom before for 2 years. Worst thing ever, and I paid like 150 per bed. So in that situation, where got people, Sean, calculate per head one? My landlord back then. So the living room, right, all tables one. The bedrooms were just rooms for stay. But that is the economy class of student accommodation, and this is the higher end one where each student gets to have their own bedroom. Number 3, does renovation affect the student accommodation? Based on agent, the number of wealthy China students and affluent families are increasing. Yes, actually there's a lot of companies that are dedicated to just arrange accommodations for university students. So these agencies are hired by university to purposefully look for accommodations for their foreign students. Because the worst thing for a foreigner to come in is after I do my registration, right? Hey, where's my kids going to stay? Now they need to find themselves. Tak mungkin one ma. It's going to be a big hassle, especially for international students. So there are a lot of services like that. And for renovation, then I think yes. And this is then about levels. So our approach in the makeover, guys, the first thing is to determine who are you renting to, which is an excellent segue to this discussion, right? After determining the multiple rental options and the target audience, and that highly correlates to the rental rates. A residency 22 unit in Mont Kiara, which is renting about 10,000, 12,000 a month, the level of furnishing will be very different compared to a 3,000 long-term rent in PJ versus a student accommodation versus an Airbnb. Because for a 10,000 rent per month kind of thing, the quartz stone at the kitchen cabinet matters. The texture on the dining table matters. The matching, the mood, the vibe of the living room where the curtain needs to match, the setting needs to match, the dining table needs to match the rug. All that matters. But when you go to student accommodation, right, how do you check whether is it fully furnished or not? Which is a big thing that is lacking within the market lah, but agak-agak lah. So now every room got bed or not, got wardrobe or not, got dressing table or not, got study table or not, got curtain or not, got aircon or not, got water heater or not, got RFID or not, got separate access card or not, got separate lock set at each room or not. So the approach will be very, very different compared to the long-term stay one. And the few things there, after we visit Union Street, only we witness firsthand. Where the digital lock set, right, is adopted to every single room, not only the main door to the unit. Then the kitchen mainly is a pantry. Then how do you then separate the electricity bill? So you have a sub-meters. Then just be prepared for the level of wear and tears for maintenance lah. So the table will suddenly collapse beds will collapse if you understand, right? So all this kind of thing will happen in student accommodation because I got a lot of friends doing this lah. But with the very high returns, it's all okay. It all makes sense. And that's the main difference. Will the cost be higher for student accommodation compared to a long-term rent? For the same layout, yes. Why? Because you have to think about the sets of beds you need to provide. Let's just look at type B, right? It's a 2-bedroom, 1 study. Technically, I need to give 1 settee, 1 dining, and 2 bedroom sets. Okay, but if you convert everything into bedroom, right, I will need 4 bedroom sets, which cost way more. Then each will have their own lock set, and the pantry is best to be functional. So not by quality makes it higher in price, it's the quantity of things also will make things higher in price. But does it matter? Yes, because if an empty unit, right, who will want to rent? Imagine a student come to you, hey, I want to 租房. Your unit got bed or not? Don't have. Huh? You want me to buy my own bed? What is this, 1990s? Buy my own fridge? Install my own water heater? I here for 2 semesters only. So out of convenience, everybody will just go to the fully furnished units, which is the trend now. So now by not fully furnishing a unit, right, you are missing out a lot of opportunities. That's why for younger investors now, property investors, it's best to have a level of capital. And now, unfortunately, the furnishing cost for units is getting very, very high. Last time we are talking about 22,000 can furnish a unit, 24,000, right? Now within the group itself, Chincai also 38 to 50,000. And within this floor plan, like just now the promo packages sent by the agent, right? There's a free water heater, free cabinet kitchen, free aircon, right? Everybody will just laugh at it, ha ha ha, all this standard, right? Not really, This itself is about 12 to 15,000 kind of thing, Just that I don't know what's the number of aircon, the details of the kitchen cabinet, and how many water heaters. So the best thing is if you buy with furnishing packages, right, it greatly helps the cash flow later because all this will be lumped into the financing of the loan. So when you do renovation, right, you don't have to cough out so many things. Just like my Eco Ardens unit right now, it's empty, bare. Just by aircon and kitchen alone, it's already 50,000. I haven't put in the furnitures, curtain, anything yet. It's just aircon, kitchen cabinet just to make it functional. Also 50,000 already. Very, very scary now, the cost. Then for the last question, do you think that it's better to let other people manage the unit or you want to manage yourself for experience and investment knowledge? To me, I would focus my resources on activities that will bring more income to the family instead of managing it. And you think about it, right, 5 to 10% for the things that they are doing, right, I think it's totally justifiable. Personally, for my Puchong unit last time, again, my long-term rent couldn't cover my installment. So what I did is I split the room, I rent out room by room actually. So suddenly your portfolio, like now people need to have 4 houses to have 4 tenants, right? 1 unit already 4 tenants. So you need to talk to them all the time, and you know that students, light spoil already. You ask him to fix yourself, man, cannot be one ma. You ask them to manage and get a guy to come in, man, cannot one ma. And since there's a dedicated group like the one in Union Suites, again it's something Uncle something, Uncle Lim No, Uncle Lim is the kopitiam. Uncle Sam, I forgot some uncle That's the name of the company But I think the origin is also some uncle start doing this as a business one. My opinion, if you can afford the services, go ahead. This is when you start really letting money buy back your time. Why want to waste time changing light bulb or arranging people to fix the defects within the unit while you can spend time with your family, right? Or you want to spend time making more money. If you cannot afford, then you do it yourself But when your time is worth more already and you can afford it, I will always choose more time. And I think that's all for this episode. A very interesting project. A lot of ads are going around for this one. And if you look at it, right, I still remember how Summit was the biggest thing in Subang. Everyone was hanging out around Summit, right? And now the landscape in USJ1 is really changing in real time. It's so scary, the skyline around USJ1, right? The only thing I'm hoping to see is the abandoned Empire project at the end of the road to be revived one day, because that's just an eyesore every time you pass by Kesas Highway. Such a waste of resources, such a waste of land. But what to do? But in conclusion, I think this is fine. The only thing to think about for this kind of project, just like Airbnb projects, just like tourism-oriented projects, right, is the exit strategy. Due to the limitation of buyers that will take over the unit from you, you can only exit to another investors that look at the same number. That will be something to consider when you do this. And it's very, very difficult one. At year 7, Sean, I'm making 2,000 extra every single month. It's very painful to let go, and I totally understand. That's going to be a perfect problem to have 7 years from now. And let me know Let me know whether you pull the trigger or not. I think it's okay, not too bad. To boost your confidence further, go look at the site, because the traffic condition can be horrendous at times, but the main target audience of your project is not going to take that mode of transportation. Maybe they do, because like in Union City we see a lot of Mustang, we've seen a Porsche, we've seen a Ferrari. I think that's a Ferrari in the premise. Yeah, crazy one the students now. And I guess that's all for this episode. Thank you very much, Jeffrey, for sending in, and I really appreciate it. For those who still have any questions regarding real estate, do just email me at taniherng@gmail.com, or you can just DM me on Instagram, iherng, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Ciao.